Indian Wells, about an hour's drive inland from Los Angeles. So we're in southwestern California, or maybe south mid-California. And if you fancy a little bit of winter sunshine and some tennis and some golf, and some pretty good dining as well, not a bad place to come. 5-6, trying to force the tie break.
Well, quite an interesting approach there from Rafter. We saw Todd Woodbridge yesterday play a little like that against Agassi, dropping the ball short for the two-hander. Except Woodbridge didn't then go in and volley as Rafter did. An interesting play. Well, the frustration, of course, comes from the fact that he had the break, played an awful game, and just hasn't been able to string enough shots together. Well, he needed really to get good angle on this high backhand smash, because Ferreira is such a good athlete. He needed him to play with one hand, which he ended up doing. Although Ferreira wide on the two-hander, never as dangerous as wide on the forehand.
Once again, Ferreira going for a lot of topspin, bouncing the ball high and getting his reward there after struggling to deal with it. Third double fault from Ferreira, and it gives Rafter set point.
Just picking the wrong shot somehow, because certainly that was within a very comfortable range for Rafter. A very good defensive lob, because Ferreira had to counter the sun, apart from the fact that it was deep.
And the second approach shot from Ferreira was hesitant, and then his move forward was hesitant. He paid the price, second set point. Fluctuating set. He thought that Rafter had blown it in mid-set, but he comes back to win it in 3/4 of an hour. 7-5.
Well, it's quite an achievement by Rafter, really, because he's obviously been struggling here to find some kind of rhythm. He's had to change so many things just to topple Ferreira, And that's the first set he's won against Ferreira since 1995, the second set of the Davis Cup match they played in. Didn't do him a lot of good. He ended up losing the third and fourth pretty quickly.
Like an old steam locomotive, wasn't he, Rafter, running for that one? The pistons were pumping.
Yes, I thought of him as pants the heart for cooling stream. His cooling stream, I'm sure, would be a good draught of beer. He meant business there, but a great high backhand from Ferreira. Actually would have lost the point because his racket was on Ferreira's side of the net.
Yes, he certainly does like his beer, does Patrick, although also quite a taste for champagne after the US Open. He was quoted afterwards as saying, I could get used to drinking this.
Well, certainly a lot better use of it than wasting it on the bow of a ship or pouring it all over people's head. And
yes,
could never quite understand that. For a cheap sparkling wine, yes, but not good champagne.
It's a terrific shot. But on that very subject, I gather from our motorsport colleagues that there was a big debate. I think it's Moët Chandon who supplied the Formula One Grand Prix with the champagne, and there was a big debate as to whether they were going to continue doing it because they thought it was an awful waste of their product. They obviously did.
Well, I'm sure they'll send you a case instead of giving it to the Grand Prix people for that mention.
Rafter holds serve at the start of the second set, having won the first.
Yes, he's got a look of the hunter in him now, hasn't he? I think it's going to be quite difficult for Ferreira to come to terms with it, providing Rafter can keep up with that sort of almost animal-like instinct that he seemed to have in that game. And of course, it's a real test of Ferreira's composure of his mind. We know that he can throw in the towel a little bit. Now here's a man he's beaten, who's showing good fight, who's won the first set for a long time against him. What does he do about it?
Well, if you look at those statistics, but he's still losing a set and love one.
Well, it was a feature of his play in Battersea Ferreira that very, very few double faults. He served none against Rafter. I think it was 2 or 3 matches on the trot, certainly 2, that he served no double faults. A man who can average over 3, 4 so far.
I detect in this match, Drew, is that Wayne is not really going for the big forehand.
No, that's what in a way surprises me, because I think that plays a little bit into Rafter's hands. Rafter doesn't mind a long exchange. And Ferreira certainly got a lot more power on his forehand than Rafter's got on either of his shots. both finding that wide serve rather useful.
News of an Australian victory. Scott Draper in the battle of qualifiers has beaten Andrea Gaudenzi 6-3 in the final set. He'll play second seed Peter Korda. Pulled out of Rotterdam with a back problem.
It was a difficult one to play because Ferreira had hit it with a bit more pace than he's been hitting his forehand, and perhaps that may incline him to continue to do so, but he also played quite a bit of top on it and it kept it low. Certainly the loops that he's been trying have not done him much good so far. Perhaps just 1 or 2 points won with it, but otherwise he's lost the point either through overhitting or mishitting.
It's a good lob. This time it's Ferreira who's using the sun. There ain't much you can do about that, but miraculous pickup off the first net court.
And Ferreira's so dangerous when he's moving forward like that. There are very, very few players in the world who can do that. Not a matter of hitting the net cord, but who actually was still able to control his forehand and hit it with as much pace when the ball was so far out in front of him. Seen him time and time again bring those shots off, whether they're down the line or cross court.
Well, it's the third game of a set again. Remember that Ferreira had 15-40 in the third game of the first set.
Good percentage play, because he certainly won the vast majority of serves out wide.
Well, he wins the point, but again, I'm really surprised there. Ferreira, mid-court ball on his forehand. He didn't go for it. He gave Rafter a chance, but Ferreira does break and leads 2-1.
Very economical serve, Ferreira, in terms of his action. When you think of Rafter's serve, how much more it takes out of him, and Ferreira's leaves him really a lot of energy for this sort of play, and he's really pretty deadly with this shot as well. Doesn't always look that attractive, but my goodness, it's effective.
Now it's Ferreira's turn to show frustration. Again, the forehand not functioning as you would expect from him. Break back point. Successive breaks, 2-all, and new balls.
Well, the great Hopman, the former Australian coach of so many successful Davis Cup teams, always said the best time to break back is immediately. He would be thrilled at this, after gritting his teeth. Of course, the point really is that you don't want your opponent to stretch his lead too far, so that if you break a good man, the chances are that that good man, Rafter, is going to fight. And Ferreira really didn't serve well enough, and I don't think played quite positively enough to consolidate.
Third ace. It's 16 miles an hour. So we've got to get up to the 140s before we think in terms of records. That was a pretty disconsolate looking shot from Ferreira, as if he's pretty fed up with life at the moment. That was, frankly, I can't be bothered shot. Love game for Rafter. He's turned this set around. 3-2 he leads now on serve. With a problem. I have to completely misjudge that one. And I think really a wasted chance for Rafter. You thought Ferreira down mentally, that was a time for really putting the pressure on him. And instead, a love service game.
I think he was looking to earlier on and certainly played one very aggressive forehand, but it just didn't work.
Or fault. His fourth ace.
Of course, they'll all be looking at him with new eyes, as will so many people. Last year, just another good player, but since then, a US Open winner. I think it's true to say you win a major like that. Of course, all South Africa hopes that Ferreira can do that in time. A man who's promised a lot, but hasn't yet delivered. But in Rafter's case, even people who know you well look at you in a new light. You develop a certain hue, I think, when you've won a major, as he has.
Yeah, certainly your place in the history books is guaranteed. I remember, I've forgotten who it was, it might have been Seb Coe or Steve Ovett saying, well, world records get broken, Olympic champions remain forever. A solid serve and volley point from the Australian. And he leads 4-3 second set, and by a set to love. wry old grin from Ferreira. He knows there's no way he should have won that point.
Rafter looked rather bemused after the first point. I can't imagine what he's thinking now. You prepare so, you're going to start off, you're going to win every point on the opponent's serve, and then you miss two horrible shots. And play a third like that. So much for US Open champions.
Yes, he wouldn't make the public park second round at the moment in this game. Fourth love service game of the match for Ferreira. Second in a row. 4-all. Wins this match gets a day off tomorrow because they'll have to wait for Bruguera and Agassi, who will play tomorrow. Now it's Ferreira's turn to be furious at missing one.
And I suppose they'll be hoping that those two run each other into the ground.
It's 3 tie-break sets, 3 hours and 50. My personal bet would be about 2 and 3 Agassi, but we shall see. Fourth double, given that Agassi has the best win-loss record on the tour this year, and Bruguera of the top players the worst. Yesterday's victory was his 3rd of the entire year, and he's been a man who's virtually played every week too.
Well, he must surely be expecting them now because so many have been swung to the forehand. But it's proved a rich target for Rafter. It just shows the difference there that Ferreira, who's got such a strong forehand, not necessarily a strong return. Of course, the ball generally coming through more quickly off the server's racket than, for instance, off a ground stroke.
Ace. And Rafter leads 5-4 in the second set. 4-5, second set.
Not a pretty sight.
Well, the readers of People magazine would disagree with you. They voted him one of the 10 sexiest men in the country.
I didn't see his backhand against Ferreira at 15 all.
And that's the first overall of the match.
Oh, certainly pretty close to being out. More out than in, I think, and Rafter is pretty sure it was out. It's not normally a griper. Of course, it's one of the worst rules in the game. Now Ferreira gets 2 serves. It's a shocker. He gets 3 serves. Even worse.
Four serves. Oh, that really rubs it in, doesn't it? Only Ferreira's third ace, his first of the second set. Rafter. So having a double fault and 30 all and 2 points from victory. It's probably going to have to go a little further. And Ferreira finds the big forehand.
And now he has got the Ferrari going. It's a bit of a lumberjack of a shot, but it so often is so effective. I remember Tom Ocker used to call Butch Waltz, who had a massive serve. He used to call him a lumberjack because he got so frustrated with Waltz acing him. He didn't think he was his equal as a tennis player, but he could bang all these serves past him.
So it splits up. Good grief. Ferreira with more backhand winners than forehand. Now that's a red letter day. Don't know whether to congratulate him or to say you're not playing your forehand well enough.
Now, does he go wide to the forehand?
Maybe he should have done.
Yes, it's the problem of knowing when to stop or how long to keep on doing it. You figure you've done it so often that surely he's going to be there waiting for it and just ram it down your throat so you'll change.
Come-ons from both of them are getting louder. It's becoming a voice contest as well as a tennis one. Well, I think you should do it round wide myself, sir. How about you, Fru? See, Patrick, you're listening to the wrong people. It's break point.
Well, I think it's the perfect tactic. I mentioned it earlier on with Rafter staying back, not necessarily with a serve to the forehand, but coming in behind a ground stroke, because the ground stroke is inevitably going to get deeper than the serve. And it just gives him a bit more time to read the Ferreira backhand.
Now, was it in or out? I'm not sure. With the roars going on.
I think it might have been called out.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, it has.
Second break point. It's good play in every sense. Getting the good deep first serve in and then a clever little shot to back it up.
Yes, he had to make up his mind quickly here, whether he was going to half volley or slam on the brakes. And that was the right decision, because he could get a lot more power in that shot. Ferreira's return didn't have a lot of bite because he was on the stretch. Well, it's eased matters. Remember the dividends he's reaped really from serving wide. Too often in this game, to the right court, he's gone to the backhand.
Has Rafter had a let court of his own in this match? Because Ferreira's had a whole bunch of them.
I'm not sure that he has.
Fifth double fault and a third break point. Ferreira finds the big forehand, and he'll serve for one set all. That was a big game in every sense. At all.
long look at the line from Ferreira. It could only have been the outside of it.
It's a nothing shot at this stage. No, I don't believe it. I think Mr. Ferreira should be buying shares in the company that makes that net.
Yes, Transvaal ropes and matting.
He already had the dividends. 2 set points. And after an hour and just coming up to 34 minutes, 1 set each.
Well, you've got to favour Ferreira just a little bit, at least I have to. Yeah, he seems to have found a bit more of the power on the forehand. Psychologically will have a little bit of an edge, but of course that'll soon rub off if he doesn't take advantage of it now, at least early on in this final set. Rather impressed with Rafter's field placing behind Ferreira. It's almost as if he's got a very fine leg slip and a second slip in position.
Who moves pretty rapidly to the gully as well. Yes, the moving system of line judges. Lovely stuff. Played a couple of clever wrong free shots, and that's as good as any. So Patrick. And on court at the moment on the outside courts, you've got young Leighton Hewitt of Australia against Henrik Drakeman of Germany, and another Australian-German encounter, Stoltenberg against Haas. They're both very early on and pretty even at the moment.
That's a beautiful shot from Ferreira, really well timed. To service action, one could well emulate, imitate, because it is so smooth, so easy.
The fifth love service game of the match for Wayne Ferreira. And Rafter's just come up with 2. 1-all final set.
I think one of the reasons he serves that way is, of course, he's born and grew up in Johannesburg, which is altitude, just about a mile high, where the ball travels through the air, so you don't have to hit the ball that hard to produce pace.
I can always remember the one time I went to Johannesburg, and the plane I was in had one of those sort of altimeters in the passenger cabin, and I was looking out the window and I looked up and said, hang on, we're still at 6,000 feet, but we're just about to land. Yes. What's going on here?
Well, that's the vision from London, really, where Ferreira beat Rafter, particularly on that left court. Rafter not able to get the kick, not able to get in as close, and Ferreira just slapping that two-hander past him. That is Ferreira's stance on his returner serve, left foot in front of the right. Well, I expected a bit more of him. That's sometimes when he brings up one of his magical tricks on the run.
Game's going pretty comfortably with the serve at the start of the third set. It's 3 points against the serve so far. 2-1 Rafter.
The Winter Sports World Cup Finals. For the snowboarders, one more chance at
string enough shots together. Well, he needed really to get good angle on this high backhand smash, because Ferreira is such a good athlete. He needed him to play with one hand, which he ended up doing. Although Ferreira wide on the two-hander, never as dangerous as wide on the forehand.
Once again, Ferreira going for a lot of topspin, bouncing the ball high and getting his reward there after struggling to deal with it. Wells, about an hour's drive inland from Los Angeles. So we're in southwestern California, or maybe south mid-California. And if you fancy a little bit of winter sunshine and some tennis and some golf, and some pretty good dining as well, not a bad place to come. 5-6, trying to force a tie break.
Oh, quite an interesting approach there from Rafter. We saw Todd Woodbridge yesterday play a little like that against Agassi, dropping the ball short for the two-hander. Except Woodbridge didn't then go in and volley as Rafter did. An interesting play. Well, the frustration, of course, comes from the fact that he had the break, played an awful game, and just hasn't been able to
Well, a really fluctuating set. He thought that Rafter had blown it in mid-set, but he comes back to win it in 3/4 of an hour. 7-5.
Well, it's quite an achievement by Rafter, really, because he's obviously been struggling here to find some kind of rhythm. He's had to change so many things just to topple Ferreira, and that's the first set he's won against Ferreira since 1995, the second set of the Davis Cup match they played in. Didn't do him a lot of good. He ended up losing the third and fourth pretty quickly.
Like an old steam locomotive, wasn't he, Rafter, running for that one? The pistons were pumping.
Yes, I thought of a hymn as pants the heart for cooling stream. His cooling stream, I'm sure, would be a good draught of beer. He meant business there, but a great high backhand from Ferreira. Actually would have lost the point because his racket was on Ferreira's side of the net.
Yes, he certainly does like his beer, does Patrick, although also quite a taste for champagne after the US Open. He was quoted afterwards as saying, I could get used to drinking this.
Well, certainly a lot better use of it than wasting it on the bow of a ship or pouring it all over people's head. And
yes,
could never quite understand that. For a cheap sparkling wine, yes, but not good champagne.
It's a terrific shot. But on that very subject, I gather from our motorsport colleagues that there was a big debate. I think it's Moët Chandon who supplied the Formula One Grand Prix with the champagne, and there was a big debate as to whether they were going to continue doing it because they thought it was an awful waste of their product. Third double fault from Ferreira, and it gives Rafter set point.
He's just picking the wrong shot somehow, because certainly that was within a very comfortable range for Rafter. It's a very good defensive lob because Ferreira had to counter the sun, apart from the fact that it was deep.
And the second approach shot from Ferreira was hesitant, and then his move forward was hesitant. He paid the price, second set point.